Hello and welcome to the Full Octane Garage, and today the Full Octane Lodge is going to get a new compressor. Actually, we've had this compressor probably for about 8 months or a year while this build was going on, but it was stored at a friend's house that I bought it from. The issue was it's very heavy. This thing weighs about 400 pounds and he has a very awkward driveway, so I finally found a safe mover that would bring this compressor to the house. So we got it positioned and we started thinking, okay, now we've got to mount it, we've got to run lines. In our last application, our last home, we had a Harbor Freight compressor. This is a Champion. I believe it's a 60-gallon, 5 horsepower, pulls a 30 amp breaker, so that's not too bad. Now, in our last house, we used the RapidAir line system throughout and this is a 3/8 line, and we painted cars with it, we've sandblasted with it, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh my God, 3/8, that's not enough flow, it's not enough volume. For my home application, it's plenty. I bought the system online at Amazon years ago. I believe you can still get it on Amazon. We'll put some links below. Super easy system to work with. It's a PEX-based system, and these connectors that they have basically just push in, and that's as simple as it gets. They're connected, so you cut to length, and then it has a sleeve that you pull back on, and you can pull the line back out. These lines are good for 150 pounds of pressure, so I'm going to monitor my compressor and make sure it's not, this is capable of doing 175, but we're going to adjust it to do 150 or less. Now, again, in our last house, we had our compressor mounted on the floor. This was no different. This has 4 mounting points that we're going to have to mount into the floor. And we're going to use these redhead bolts. Now, to insulate it from the floor, they sell these kits, and it's 1 piece of metal and 2 rubber pads. And basically they go under each foot, and you drill I'm using 1/2 inch redheads, because they will fit totally through the hole, so I don't have to lift the compressor up on it. I could have done a bigger bolt, but I elected not to. So you're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole through the foot, through the plate when you have it lined up, and you're going to pound these into the floor. I have 3 and 4 inches. I may end up having to use the 4 inch, I'm not sure. Once you pound them in and get them snug, you tighten them down, and this base expands into the concrete, and that compressor is going no place. Now, before you get to drilling holes, you want to make sure you have this thing positioned correctly. We wanted to make sure that I had easy access to the on and off switch to the compressor, and also there is a meter here that tells a gauge that tells us how much pressure is in the system, and I wanted to be able to see that easily also. Then you have to think about maintenance. If you ever have to change the oil in it, if you ever have to change the belt, you know, sure, I'd like to push that thing up against the wall and have it really tight, but I would never get this outer screen off to change the belt. So that's something to think about, clearances around your walls. Same thing on the back side. The outlet of the compressor, the way I have it positioned, goes straight back. So I'm going to have to go back and kind of turn around, because I'm going to be mounting these blocks on the wall for air outlets. And then I'm going to have a T in it that's going to go up and across into a couple other points in the garage. And how I'm going to get it out of the system, I want to have a shutoff right at the tank. So these RapidAirs come with these little shutoffs. The tank actually has a 1/2 inch NPT thread. These are 3/8 NPT, so I have to reduce it down, and I will do that using some Teflon tape, tightening them down, and they should seal themselves. Then I'll have a valve right at the compressor. I will go ahead and run the compressor with the valve turned off, just to see what the pressure builds up to. And if it's 150 or less, I'm good. If it's 175, I'm going to have to tweak the adjustment down on the on and off relay switch. And then the next thing I'm going to have to do is adapt this to where it can accept some of this line. These are 3/8 inch NPTs, so I will be able to put a 3/8 inch NPT in the other end of this compressor. So it will be the compressor, a cutoff switch, and you could put a big ball valve in if you want. A lot of people will go ahead and put a pressure regulator. I am electing not to do that at this moment. I may add it later with maybe a moisture filter. But for when I'm using it for air tools, I'll put the moisture filter on at my blast cabinet where I'll use that. And then what this will do is get me a short line that I'll be able to plug in and run it from the back of the compressor. This is quite flexible, as you can see. So I'll be able to flex it to get it right up to the wall where my block is going to be. I will then put a T connector in it, and that will allow me to connect to this block and then run a line out over top. So I do have a 1/2-inch concrete drill bit. I believe I got a 6-inch version of it, which should be plenty to get what I need on these lag bolts. So what we're going to do is, we think we've got this thing positioned correctly. The other thing is, on the bottom of these tanks, there is typically a water drain bleed valve. And I wanted it facing out, and that's also facing out in the configuration that I left it here in the garage. So now we'll get to drilling and mounting the bolts. Really all it is positioning each one of these plates under a foot, drilling a hole, tapping it in, tightening it down, and then that's done. Then the next thing we'll get to is running the RapidAir lines. So stick with us and we'll get back to you as soon as we're finished mounting the compressor to the floor. Okay, good news. The compressor is all mounted. We've got all 4 bolts in. What we did was we put 2 pads of rubber, 1 piece of metal, and then we used the red-headed 3-inch, 1/2-inch bolts. We left the drain facing out so that we can drain the tank off when we need to. This particular one had a plug-in dryer style plug 30 amp wire that we just ran around the back and have it plugged into the wall on a 30 amp dedicated circuit. And then we used our RapidAir lines to come out of the back of the compressor. And what we did was we put a valve on the back of the compressor. Then it goes into the punch-in RapidAir lines, goes up the wall into a T. We've got it coming down to an outlet so we can put a hose on it at this end of the shop. It then goes up, and you'll see that it goes across. We've tied it to a plumbing vent line with tie wraps. And then we have another outlet that drops off at the blast cabinet. And then we ran it through the ceiling into the shop, and we screw clamped it onto the ceiling, punched it through the wall, and as you can see, we have our hose reel hanging on the wall, and it's going into another one of the RapidAir blocks with an air drain also. So that about sums up the air compressor install and the PEX lines. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Come back and see some other cool stuff. We're going to be building this truck here in the channel a little bit more, do a few more things. We'll do a garage update. The garage has really turned out nice. Got a lot of our signage up. Got our barn doors up, our fake wall. And it just looks awesome. Thanks for being with us at the Full Octane Garage. This compressor install was a blast. It didn't take too long, and now we have plenty of air in the shop for airing up tires, running the blast cabinet, and any other kind of air needs that we have, maybe doing a little painting. Thanks for being with us at the Full Octane Garage. Come back and see us often. Don't forget to like and subscribe.